If you are a music producer, I guarantee you that you will learn something from this hidden gem producer. I fell in love with one of his tracks and I played in every single club and festival gigs I had past year. And you know what? It was always one of the highest and most emotional point of my sets, and people really fell in love with it afterwards. Don't believe me? Here is the king of the dance floors playing it. But why? Why is this track so magical? That is the answer we are exploring today. First, a big announcement. We have just released a track with Venom and it got featured quite a bit. We are on the cover of Electronic Rising. It is doing really well on Beatport, and a lot of people are asking how we make specific sounds or if we can make a full breakdown on the track. So I don't want you to wait until we create a video like that. We decided we will give away the project file and the samples for free for the people who buys the track on Beatport. This will be available short time, probably next 2 weeks or so. So if you want to take a look and use my presets on your own tracks, don't miss this opportunity. All you need to do is get the track on Beatport, send the receipt on contact@mercurytones.com, and then wait for a magical email to arrive with project file and the presets. Alright, let's take a look at Yumi now. The first thing that I want to take a look at is the groove and the drums of this track, because it's really a little bit different. Even in the dance, it don't say this much a more organic, classic, but still dancey groove. What do I mean by that? Let me show you. Kick first, sounding like this. 4 to the floor, but you can still hear it almost feels like an organic drum, right? But it's obviously electronic drum with all the tail and the bass in it. Makes it more obvious with very organic sounding snare. Together. And then you make it even more obvious by adding organic tom sounds. These 3 elements already gets you going. It is so interesting. And then we go for this classic organic direction with 6 hats. I think these are quite close to the original and sounds like this. I had to layer a bit. Why the empty space? Because we want to have an open hat, like a drummer playing drums, like you play the closed hats and then you pull your feet off from the pedal, have the open hat and close back again. So giving this really organic drummer playing drum feeling. Just open hat, right? It is really beautiful and simple. And then we are enhancing the driving feel a bit more with adding 16 shakers and panning right and left all the time, with a really nice groove in it. Now the one important thing is when you are making this type of drums, you have to create the room. In this case, I have actually 2 different reverbs. The first one is this brighter room reverb. Both hats and snares stand there, but it lacks a bit depth. For that we have another Pro R. You can use any reverb, but I think Pro R has this really warm, deep room sound. Right? Again, snare and a tom. We are setting the low end part of the drums there. See how much depth this has. And now if you play it together, it is perfection. Now, I think in the original track, I think he played electric bass guitar. At least it sounded to my ears. But you can get very similar with any synthesizer. In this case, I'm using a Serum simple soul wave into a 24 dB Moog filter with like sustain volume envelope, but plucky filter envelope. We are warming it a bit, adding a bit dimensions, like distortion, a bit chorus. Now we have this. Do you know what they are missing? More driving feel. How do we add it? By adding another top bass and using it in 16 groove. 16 groove means just 16 notes in a one bar, adding this real driving feel. How do we do this? Easy. I'm using Hive, but you can use another synthesizer. I like the Hive because it filters sound slightly warmer to my ears, especially in the dirty mode. So what I'm doing, 2 unison, 1 oscillator to the right, 1 oscillator to the left, giving this space and stereo image. And using very snappy plucky envelopes on the cutoff and the volume envelope. And distorting a bit and a bit reverb. And of course, we are side-chaining the kick and the snare to bring the snare even more to the front, helping to drive the track further. All together. Do you hear how beautiful this is and how simple really is? It is just about picking right sound and getting the right feel. And in around 10 channels, we have already a very solid groove to work on. If you're enjoying the video up to now, consider like and subscribe. It really helps a ton. The most important thing that you can learn from Notre Dame is actually how he composed the track. So for me, becoming a good producer is becoming a good composer. While it is important to pick the right sounds, it's even more important to create a good story with the sounds that you have. And for that, I think the most important thing in this track is this beautiful synth melody. There's a lot of emotion in it, and the emotion comes from how he builds up the whole melody, all these phrases it, and really gives you this like almost crying feel, going down like 2 octaves, so that you have this nice legato going up. On top of that, it is very dynamic, meaning that actually the velocities play an important role on the volume levels and also with the aggressiveness of the sound. How is this created? It is actually quite straightforward. First off, I'm using high for a single reason, and it is this dirty filter. To my ears, this sounds a bit darker than classic filters, and it also sounds a bit less aliasing, so the sound comes a bit warmer because of that. What I'm going to do first, start from the scratch so that you can see what's going on. So the sound itself, if you just open the cutoff, this, right? This is just a single sawtooth, but the idea comes from making it more emotional. How do you do it? The first thing is a vibrato, slowly modulating your pitch, so it's kind of a bit more. You hear it? See that? Immediately more emotional. And then of course you don't want this type of bright sound, right? You want to slowly open it up and give a character. The first thing, bring the cutoff down, but now it's too close. How can we make it more dynamic? Simply using envelopes. But take a look, this one is modulating the filter cutoff. This one actually controls this, right? So we are using very snappy plucky envelope, creating this really character out of the song. And finally, everything comes together when you actually use the velocities for the volume and distortion, like those. That part, we want to go up louder, more feelings. Right? Then this is it. This is the sound. It is not so simple, but it's so elegant. Let me show you the effects. We are sending first a little bit to vintage reverb, dark room, dark hole. I like character of the vintage reverb a lot. It's from my vintage reverb preset pack. And then, of course, adding a bit of transient shaper to make those plugins a bit more plucky. And then just echo to give it a bit stereo image on the sides. And even a bit reverb on top. This is really tiny, small reverb. It's like 7%, just to glue everything up. Beautiful sound. Notre Dame, I think he's a very, very good composer. And a good composer brings the emotion on the build up over here. What he does is, I think, quite genius. While he's opening up here, he picks a sound that is completely different. In this case, we have his first a poly sound. Almost reminds you of Avicii sound, right? Like very old school EDM sound. I have 2 layers. More classic one, and then we have this more plucky one. Is that wink sound. And then he had kind of a talk box lead on top. Now, I could have spent more time to make it more matching the one that we had, but I just really picked a vocoder preset that I found here. Could be just using actually the Solomun filter as well. It doesn't need to be that vocoder, but something like this is good enough for me. It's quite similar already. And the idea is, while we are building up, we bring in these sounds and glue together. So listen to here. Slowly opening up. beat comes, isn't it? And of course we have our bass here. Dum, 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 dum. Right? We are not exaggerating anything. We are not overdoing anything. We are just focusing on the emotions. And then I was talking this EDM Avicii feel, and here we had this EDM clap on the beat. This was very classic thing to do in EDM times, like tap tap. But it's very quiet. We are not making it a big room EDM track, right? And then we just find it being our beat. And a riser. And together now we have here. Just so gorgeous. One thing that we haven't mentioned, so to make everything a bit more housey, a bit more chorus-like, we're actually adding up a piano. It looks like this. A bit more housey piano. Just using the Arturia's piano. This is a very classic sound, literally the first preset in Arturia. I just bumped the high end a little bit distortion without. So it pops a little bit on the mix, right? It is so beautiful. And one thing that I want you to take a look again, amount of channels. We have 19 channels. It's such a beautiful track and it's such a simple, elegant track as well. So all you need to focus is becoming a better composer, executing your ideas the way it needs to be. Not less, not more. If you want to execute more ideas and learn how to do that, I have more videos over here. Take a look.